My name is Christian Lee. I'm a partner in Sionic and I specialise in clearing and risk management. The core area is very much around market infrastructure and the reforms that have happened since the financial crisis of 11 years ago. And I've been assisting with building and enhancing market infrastructure, which is basically the piping that holds all the financial system together. And the specialist knowledge that I have assists clients all over the world in making that fit for purpose and best of breed. I can say quite literally, we do have world-leading experts within my team. Types of projects that myself and my team get involved with are very much starting at the inception of a project, usually in a new market. So for example, we've been to Japan, we've been to Australia, we are currently in Taiwan, and we go in at very much the start of the project, which is building this new infrastructure for these markets. It will be involved at the planning stage, the design stage, and then my team will be there for the full implementation, which could be anything up to 2 or 3 years. And that's working hand in hand with our clients. And as I said, that could be anywhere in the world. And one of the things I really like is going to somewhere new, which is a different market, a different culture, different people, different parts of the infrastructure, and adapting what I know and what I've gleaned from working elsewhere to that particular market and culture. It's probably the most rewarding part of it, because it is showing the sort of flexibility of approach, dealing with those different nuances, and working with potentially completely different bunch of people as well. Rewinding the clock to 2008, at the time I was working at a place called SwapClear, which was an international CCP, and my role as risk manager there was to look after the complex portfolios that Lehman's had cleared with us. Back in the early 2008, no one expected a major bank to go into default. But as 2008 progressed and things became more uncertain, it all culminated in September of that year, when Lehman's indeed was declared bankrupt. And that was when everything that I'd worked on to that date was put into practice. It was no longer theoretical. We had to deal with a default of a major international bank. And what we had planned and what we had to then execute was one of the most challenging parts of my career. But it was ultimately very successful. It changed the knock-on impact was that it changed the regulatory landscape insofar as the infrastructure that I was in charge of immunised many of the other participants in the market from loss. I was responsible for unwinding the OTC swaps portfolio of Lehman's. No loss occurred to market participants, and it happened relatively seamlessly. Since the financial crisis of 2008, the regulatory focus has been on ensuring that banks are better capitalised. There is more transparency with respect to the behaviours within financial institutions, and that there is avoidance of any knock-on impact, systemic risk of one bank taking another down. And that has been manifest through a series of regulatory changes, including the infrastructure reforms, the mandating of clearing that I have focused on over the last 10 years. Where are we now? We've had over 10 years of regulatory reform, and many of the major economies have now put in place these reforms. There's still work to be done. By and large, the infrastructure is in a much better place, certainly for the major economies. And what we're seeing now is that some of the sort of tier 2 countries, tier 3 countries, are looking at the reforms that have been done in the major economies, seeing that they're working quite well. We've got a much more sort of level playing field, and we haven't got the situation where there is a danger of one part of the world having a crisis and taking other parts down. I mean, there are different risks now, different types of risks that need to be dealt with, but the sort of issues that we had 10, 11 years ago have been mitigated to a large extent.